In today's session, we're exploring how trust architects can get started today, including a live demonstration of launching the services needed to issue and verify a digital product passport directly from your computer. To continue this discussion and for additional resources and a chance to connect with other supply chain trust and transparency champions, we invite you to join our community of trust architects at chat.pix.io. Here you can chat with a wide audience of people already doing this work. So with that, we're thrilled to be joined by Pyx CEO Zach Zeus, who will share his insights, a demonstration, and his perspective. So let's get started.
Thanks, Dan. Welcome, everyone. As Dan mentioned, I'm going to be walking through a live demo on issuing UNTP compliant digital product passports. But before that, I'm going to sort of set some context. So in this part of the conversation, I'm going to do a little bit of an intro. And as always, I'm going to go through sort of the business implication of doing this, the policy and standards implication, the technology implication. And the reason I'm doing that is because that's how we see this program of work, and being a trust architect, what that really means is bringing together the business insights and innovative business models with the challenge while still addressing the challenging policy and standards ecosystem that we're living in, while applying modern technical approaches. And we're doing that because as in our community, we have a vision of a future where people, businesses, and communities are most successful because they're making the world better. And the reason we sort of articulate it that way is that um, if the people who are making the world worse are more successful, we will continue to make the world worse. And one of the things that we sort of try to articulate is we're not trying to take a values position on better or worse, but we're trying to create a community where better behavior creates a better world, a better outcome. And so we're trying to build that community of people who are working in this direction. And we think that in order to do that, you need to bring together business innovation, policy and standards innovation, and technical innovation to coalesce that. And one of the tools that we use to enable that vision is the United Nations Transparency Protocol. And we're going to be demonstrating how issuing product passports and facility records can help address those business and policy standards. But really, this is a technical session. And so we are going to be in quite a lot of detail on the technical side of things today. And so the demonstration we're going to go through today really is around issuing product passports, facility records, and conformity credentials, and how you can use the open source reference implementation to do that quickly. I'm going to get started, get right into it. And really the key sort of thing to recognize is that there's always going to be technical challenges and or technical details to work through. But if we can start with simple building blocks that are then repeated at scale, then we can kind of achieve emergent outcomes. Uh, and so business case, I'm going to go through quickly the issuing of product passports and facility records, and that there are really two sides to the business case, because in order for there to be value, there's got to be a value exchange between buyer and supplier. And from a supplier side, the value of UNTP is market access. And so that's demonstrating compliance with market requirements. Now, that might be regulatory or standards or policy-based compliance. It might just be country of origin type compliance. So that's one reason why a business might issue product passports or facility records about their products or facilities. They might want to do that to simplify customer buying decisions. So if customers are looking for a particular feature or sustainability credential or a particular value proposition from a supplier, if you've published that information in a consistent way via digital product passport or digital facility record, you might simplify your customer's buying decision and increase your revenues because it's easier for your buyers to buy. Another reason why a supplier or product manufacturer might issue product passports or facility records is to simplify operational data publishing. So rather than doing things a million different ways for because there's a million different downstream requirements, if you can publish in a consistent way that is standardized and interoperable, that means that your operational decision making and your data and tech ecosystem is simpler and cheaper, right? Doing things consistently the same way over and over again means that you can continuously improve it, drive down your marginal costs, so that it becomes a really easy way to deliver information. Um, and so you have one way of doing things makes it easier for your business to actually provide that information to your customers. The financial advantage, and then the financial sector is increasingly rewarding strong sustainability credentials with improved terms of trade finance. On the buyer side, you might want to consume consistent credentials from your suppliers because it allows you to select more sustainable and resilient supply chain options. It increases the disclosure accuracy. By having consistent information from your suppliers, it means that you can get more consistent information so that you can do better comparative analyses of your suppliers, and also demonstrate year-on-year improvement based on a strong basis. Additionally, transparency in the supply chain helps mitigate risk around reputational risk. So understanding that your suppliers are providing high quality information means that you can pick and choose your supply chain, your upstream suppliers, and you don't get surprised with bad actors. And then the financial sector is also increasingly rewarding strong sustainability credentials with improved terms for investment capital. And so both sides of those need, so from a, and one of the things that I always say when we sort of talk about this, this sort of analysis is every business does the same thing. And it's a gross simplification, I know, but every business buys supplies from the market, adds value, and sells outcomes or products to customers, right? So every business is both a supplier and a buyer. Otherwise, they're not in business. And so being a supplier and buyer means that you might want to look at both sides of this business case for your business, recognizing that what you need from your suppliers is different than what maybe your customers want from you. But both value propositions exist for every business. Moving on to the policy side, Rec 49 is a policy document, a recommendation to nations. But on the business side, there's increasing regulatory and legal transparency requirements. This is something we've talked about a number of times, but one of the things that's happened recently, and I don't have this on the slide, but it's worth calling out, is organizations or regulators are increasingly recognizing that digital product passports can be a consistent data carrier for all of the regulatory requirements that they might imply to maintain market access. And so there's I think it was June of this year, the European Union sort of articulated that they were going to, as they impose market access requirements to get products into the market, that the digital product passport would be a common carrier for that information on an ongoing basis. I'm going to move quickly on to the technology demo side because that's going to take some time, and that's the purpose of today. So I kind of laid out a couple of the business case and policy reasons why you might want to issue a digital product passport, but really today's session is about how you get in and actually issue a product passport and how you validate that it's meeting the needs or meeting the demands that you're facing. So what are we going to see today? So these links are from the UNTP website, and these are the tools in the reference implementation. Now, one of the things that I kind of want to flag is that all of this is available from one GitHub repository. Now, there's a bunch of GitHub repos underneath it that kind of get built together, but this one repo is the one that we're going to be focusing on today. And this repository gives you the ability to create and verify and issue all of the UNTP components. And importantly, it enables you to demonstrate how UNTP might work for your business or your community or your regulated environment. And so what is it for? Well, it's in the title. It tests UNTP, and it's designed to enable the UNTP community to test, demonstrate, and validate the protocol. And that's critical for ensuring interoperability. If we can't test and deterministically demonstrate that credentials issued following the UNTP protocol are interoperable, then interoperability will fail. And importantly, we need to be able to validate that uh, when we're in the marketplace, that the credentials we're receiving are also UNTP compliant so that we're getting consistent data, and because that's what unlocks the value proposition that I mentioned in the business case scenario. And so this validation and testing of the UNTP protocol is critically important. And so some of the things, an example of what we've done with this, so this comes from one of our implementation. And so this is a supply chain map where every credential on that map is can be issued and verified and explored, and the whole value chain can be explored from the reference implementation. And so this is an example of what we've done with this. What I'm going to be showing today is a much simpler example of the reference implementation, because the reference implementation is just the building blocks, or the tests UNTP are the building blocks to build something like this. The next slide is a little bit more of a technical slide. I apologize for that, but what we have, so when I kind of walk through the reference implementation here in a couple of minutes, I'm going to show two different things at the same time. One is the reference implementation. That's how we issue and verify credentials. This is the user experience that we see. And then behind that is a bunch of backing services. And the reason we've separated these things out is because the backend services are often pre-existing services that you might not need to deploy or validate in your environment. And so, for example, there are three storage services here, but most people already have S3 buckets or have some storage solution they're already using. And so these services in a real implementation would be replaced with your existing ecosystem. The documentation site gives you a bunch of information about how to run this thing, and so you wouldn't necessarily need that in your environment. vCKit, you might get this from a hyperscaler or a cloud service provider. So that's the tool that is used to issue credentials. And the playground is actually a test suite, which you might do automatically via your integration layer, or it might be something you use the UNTP test site for that. And there's a public implementation of that as well. And so these backing services are there so that you can interact with a reference implementation, but in a real production implementation, these may get replaced with other types of solutions. The other two sort of components of the reference implementation I haven't quite mentioned are the IDR tools, and those are the identity resolution tools. That's how you go from the ID of a thing to the product passport or facility records or other credentials that have been issued about that. And we have a mock GS1 because we do sometimes want to scan barcodes, and then we have just our default one as well. And so those are kind of an overview of the backing services that exist. And so you'll see me navigate around this a little bit as we go through the demo, but I just wanted to put some context. Our main place we're going to play, though, is the reference implementation up at the top, and that's where we're going to see credentials. Actually, the two main places we're going to play are the reference implementation at the top and the test playground, where I'm going to show you the credentials passing tests, hopefully if we're successful. All right, so what we will see today. So these are a number of commands I'm going to be putting in a command line. I know this is, again, a pretty technical demo, but I do kind of want to show you that we can go in pretty quick order from the GitHub repository to a working reference implementation to issuing UNTP compliant credentials and then testing that those credentials were correct. So I'm going to go through these steps. Without further ado, I'm just going to get stuck into it. So let me get out of screen sharing or get out of that and go into Visual Studio. So this is a place that people, this is a what's called a developer environment. And so I'm just going to quickly walk through those steps that I just said. So the first thing, I've already downloaded tests UNTP from the UNTP site. I could start from scratch, but that would there's a few steps in here that take a long time, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to check to make sure that I've got the cleanest, that everything is up to date. So I'm going to do git pull, put in my credentials. I'm already up to date. So that means that I have the most recent version of UNTP, or test UNTP, and I'm going to just quickly show that. So basically what that means is that I have the most recent version of this repository that is up online. And doing git pull tells me that I'm already up to date. The next thing I'm going to do from my script here is confirm my environment versions. And so this is something that developers are very familiar with. So yarn -v. So I'm just checking that I've got the right version of yarn and node. So if we go up here, the prerequisites are that I've got Docker installed. I do. And then I've got node version 2012.2 and yarn version 1.22.2. So I've got yarn version 1.2020. 1.22.22. If I do node -v, I see that I have version 20.12.2. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start the dependent services. And so if we go back to our slides, the dependent services are all of these backing services here. So I'm going to hit go on that. And it's basically I grab this command. And what's happening behind the scenes are all of those backing services are starting up in Docker. And so I'm going here. So we see in Docker, the test UNTP backing services all starting up. We see a bunch of green lights. We see in our command line that they're all started. And we're in business. So there was no errors, no problems. And so then I do the next thing. So if we go to our script, do the build and launch reference implementation. So basically, I have all of these things up now. These are all green. Now I go to the reference implementation to get this started. And the reason we do the backing services and the reference implementation separately is so that developers can build the UNTP compliant solutions right away. So I'm just going to do yarn install. And basically what that's doing is getting all of the packages that are necessary to build this application. So that's just collecting all of the things that are necessary for this thing to be successful. And so that's done. And then I do yarn build. And so yarn build takes the packages and the codes and puts them together into a runnable environment. And so that's running, take a couple of seconds. And then I'm going to do yarn start. And that's actually starting our reference implementation. And that launches into UNTP's reference implementation. And we can see a example company and start issuing product passports, facility records, conformity credentials, and identity anchors, and transaction events, and all the different components of UNTP. So I'm going to start by issuing a digital product passport. So this is a pretty simple form, and this is all configurable in the reference implementation. And so we've created things like digital livestock passports, digital battery passports, electronic goods passports. We've created all sorts of different types. The default right now here is a battery passport. So I'm going to issue that DPP. And I see an action successful button up here. Now, one of the things I'm going to flag is that the credential has been issued and it's actually been stored in an identity resolution service so that it's discoverable based on the identifier of the product. And so this is what an identity resolution service looks like. And if I click on that URL, I can see this credential that I've just issued that's been credentialed. So this is my digital battery passport or digital product passport with all that information that I kind of was showing in the last step. And so if I download that credential, I see VC.json, vc5.json. I can look at it and see it's issued just now. And now I'm going to go into the playground and see if it's compliant with the current version of UNTP. So if I go to the playground here, I can drag this VC.json into the credentials file, and we see confetti, success, it was correct. And so a couple of things to highlight in this playground environment is its version 0.6.0 has been validated. So that's the current version of UNTP schemas. It's validating that the proof type was correct, the version, VCDM version detection was, the schema was correct, the credential was correct, the actual schema was correct, and the JSON-LD document expansion and context validation is correct. If any of these fail, that means it is not a UNTP compliant credential. It may be a valid verifiable credential, but it's not a UNTP but valid credential. Now, we can also go to the UNTP playground and do that same test. So if I go to test UNC fact, so this is the exact same environment, just hosted by the UN. Ooh. And I can see, well, maybe you can't, make it a little bigger, that we've gone through that same proof, but in an online environment. One of the things we have here is we're going to be able to generate reports and download reports. That means that we can validate that our application has also passed all of these tests. So I'm not going to do that. But if we come back to our reference implementation, we're just going to do this a couple of more times, and we're going to run, we're going to issue a digital facility record. Again, all of this is configurable, and this is the data. I can click on the our digital facility record and get that one that I've just issued, download that one. I'm just going to follow this step a couple more times. Issue DCC. Download it. And then issue a digital identity anchor. Click on it, download it. And then I'm going to grab my suite of credentials. So all of these ones that I've just created from the last last couple of minutes, grab them. Oops, I need to actually bring up the playground. And I got a bunch of confetti. All of them passed the tests, and they all follow that same test passing process. And if we go back to our demo, what we said we were going to show, we were able to get the latest changes from the test UNTP GitHub repo, issue some default credentials, view the credentials we've just issued, download them, and test that they are to ensure that they are UNTP compliant. And that is the demo that I was planning. In the next demo, we're going to go through how we link credentials together and how we validate that the linkages are correct. And that's going to be really focused on what we describe as tier 3 testing. And so that's coming next month. And so that really is how do we make sure that the information that we're getting that the companies or businesses are claiming about their facilities or products have been validated by a third party via a conformity credential. And so we'll see that in the next session.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Zach. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Appreciate everyone's time and engagement. If you'd like to continue the conversation, access additional resources, or connect with peers, please visit our community at chat.pyx.io.